You know that feeling when your stomach drops and you try to swallow it down, but it sticks like a rock in your throat. That's what I felt the day my mom's best friend walked into our kitchen wearing my mom's sweater. I was washing dishes. Dad was pretending to read the mail. The house still smelled like the lemon soap my mom used to scrub the counters with. I could still see the little dents in the couch cushion where she used to curl up with a blanket and watch those old mystery shows. And there was her friend smiling at me like we were at a bake sale, like she didn't step into the empty space my mom left. I was tired. I was always tired back then. School forms, night shifts at the store, running to the pharmacy, making sure the dog got his pills. I kept a basket by the door with receipts and a list of don't forgets, and it was always overflowing. Everyone would say, "You're so strong," and then hand me another thing to do. "You're handling it better than any adult I know," they would say, and then ask me to be an adult again. Meanwhile, my mom's best friend, we'll call her Dana, had bright nails and a fresh haircut and laughed like a bell. She never seemed tired. She always had time to sit and talk to my dad over coffee, just the two of them, while I took my mom to her appointments. I used to think Dana was nice. She came to my school plays. She brought casseroles. She hugged my mom and held her hand when the good news turned into bad news and then into worse. She called herself Auntie Dana and told funny stories about when she and my mom were young and stupid. When I was little, I thought she was the coolest grown-up I knew. She had loud earrings and told me to dream big and wear sunscreen. When my mom was healthy, it didn't bother me that Dana stayed late after dinner sometimes. I'd go to bed and they would be sipping tea and whispering. They would show each other pictures on their phones and giggle. Then my mom got sick. Then my mom got sicker. Then we were putting blankets and lip balm and soft hats into a bag. Packing a bag for someone you love is one of the worst things you will ever do, especially when you know the bag might not come back. I learned every nurse's name and which doctor rushed and which doctor cared. I learned where they kept the good ice. I learned how to smile when someone said, "We can try this," and how to nod when they said, "We should talk about goals." Dana was there. Of course she was. Every best friend moment you can imagine, she took it. She drove my mom to a chemo session when I had a final at school. She held my mom's hair when she threw up. She texted. She ordered my mom her favorite soup. She told me in the sweetest voice, "You need to rest." She told me, "You're doing great." Then she would go stand in the doorway of the hospital room and say to my dad, "Let's get her a smoothie," like she owned the place. I didn't have time to think about Dana in that way. Not then. I didn't have space in my head to wonder if the way she touched my dad's arm was a second too long, or if the way my dad smiled when she walked in was a bit too quick. I told myself I was being mean. I told myself grief can make every shadow look like a monster. My mom died with my hand in hers. She was calm. She told me I was her best thing. She told me I was brave. She made me promise to finish school and take care of myself and not let anyone tell me I was too much. She told me to wear the red dress I loved. She told me to sing in the car. She told me she loved me more than there are stars. Then she looked at my dad and told him to be kind. He cried into his hands. Dana stood in the corner. I will never forget her eyes. They were clear, dry. She pressed the tissue to my mom's lips like she was closing a door. The days after felt like I was living underwater. Everything was slow and fast at the same time. People brought flowers and food we didn't want, cards tossed in a pile. Everyone hugged me and said, "We're here for you," and then waited for me to refill their coffee. At the service, Dana spoke. She spoke for a long time. Dad didn't. He stood up there, and when it was his turn, he just shook his head and sat down. Dana squeezed his shoulder like she was the widow. Afterward, she tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and said, "We'll get through this, sweetheart." I smelled my mom's perfume on her. There is grief and then there is silence. After the crowd left, after the lasagnas went bad in the freezer, after the dog stopped waiting by the door at 5 in the evening, there was just quiet. Dad got very quiet. He went to work. He came home late. He didn't want dinner. He said things like, "I need space," and "Don't hover," which is funny because I was the one cleaning the fridge and doing the laundry and answering every text from every cousin who wanted an update on how he was coping. Dana started coming over again. At first it was to check on us. Then it was to drop off bread. Then it was to help me organize. I didn't invite her. She would just be there like she had a key I didn't know about. She would go through my mom's stuff. She would hold up a sweater and say, "This would be so cute on you," while I stood there holding a box trying not to cry. She told me she and my mom were already planning to do a closet clean-out sometime soon. Isn't that wild? Sometime soon, she started telling me we needed to let light in. She opened all the curtains. She told my dad the living room was too dark and that the house felt like a shrine. Convinced him to paint over the soft yellow my mom picked. She said gray was fresh. She bought gray paint, and while I was at work one afternoon, she and my dad painted the wall where Mom's birthday photos hung. They took the photos down and didn't ask me where to put them. I found them later in a box under a stack of old magazines. The frame with my baby picture in it had a crack in the glass. Dana said, "Oh no, I'll fix that," in that soft voice. She never did. Maybe you see where this is going. Maybe you think I'm slow. I felt slow. I felt like someone was changing the labels on all the drawers in my life and telling me to just reach for what I needed. But when I reached for it, it was gone. A few weeks after the funeral, not many like my mom's pillows still smelled like her shampoo. I was on Dad's laptop trying to find the spreadsheet with the passwords because I had to cancel a bill. Dad is not a tech person. He forgets his passwords like he forgets to drink water. He never cleared his downloads. When I clicked downloads, there was a folder with our dog's name. I opened it. Inside were photos. One of them popped up large. It was my dad and Dana at a little restaurant. He was laughing. She was holding his hand. The date at the top made my eyes go blurry. It was from before. My mom was still here. My mom was still fighting. My mom was still making chicken soup and falling asleep on the couch and telling me to get my oil changed. And my dad was on a date with her best friend. I told myself I didn't know the context. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was a group thing. Maybe the hand holding was a trick of the angle. I clicked the next one. There they were at a pumpkin patch. My mom hated pumpkin patches, so okay, weird, but maybe it was innocent. Then I saw the caption Dana posted on her page when she shared it. With my favorite person. Heart. This was weeks before my mom went into the hospital the last time. I clicked again. A hotel receipt. Printout. 2 names. A room with a king bed. The excuse was for a conference. The conference was in a city 2 hours away. The night of the hotel was the same night I slept in a chair by my mom's bed because she was scared of the dark. I sat there and felt the rock in my throat turn into fire. My heart was beating so loud I thought I would break the chair. I called my dad. He was at work. He said he was busy. I said, I need you to come home. He said, is it an emergency? I said, yes. He came home. He walked into the kitchen, the same kitchen where my mom taught me to measure flour with a knife and not pack it down. I slid the laptop over and hit the space bar like a judge. The photo popped up. He went white, then red. He looked at me. He looked at the sink. He said, we're grieving. He said, you don't understand. He said, it wasn't like that. I said, it is exactly like that. I said, you were cheating on mom with her best friend while I was driving her to chemo. He started crying. He said, I was lonely. He said, your mom and I talked about everything. He said, she knew we were close. Said it didn't mean anything until after. He said, do you want me to be miserable forever? I said, I want you not to have lied. I said, I want you not to have smiled at me like we were a family while you were planning an exit in your head. He ran his hand over his face and said, I didn't plan anything. He said, it just happened. I hate that phrase, it just happened, like you tripped and fell into a hotel. Dana came over while we were still fighting. I don't even know who called her. It felt like she just knew when to show up. She walked in and saw the laptop and did that little gas people do in movies. She put her hand on her chest and said, oh, sweetie. I said, don't. She said, we never wanted to hurt you. I said, you didn't care if you did. She started to cry. I know real crying. I know what it looks like when someone's face cracks open and they can't get air. This was not that. This was a person crying because they got caught. She said, we were there for your mom. We were there for you. We didn't plan this. My dad said again, it just happened, like if he said it enough it would become true. People started to pick sides, and by people I mean the kind of relatives who show up for drama but not for 3 a.m. hospital runs. My aunt told me I was being dramatic. My uncle said, your dad deserves happiness. A cousin I barely talked to sent me a long message about forgiveness and finding peace like she is a guru because she reads quotes on the internet. Nobody asked me if I was sleeping. Nobody asked me if I had eaten, but everyone wanted me to try for the family. Everyone wanted me to be the bigger person. You know what being the bigger person means in a family like mine. It means shut up and take it. They got married. I wish I was making that up. They got married fast. Not even a year after my mom was gone. They did it small. Backyard, lights in the trees, mason jars. Dana wore a white dress with sleeves like clouds. My dad wore the tie my mom bought him for their 20th anniversary. They put their rings on while I stood there and tried not to scream. Dana told me right before they said their vows, your mom would be so happy to see us together. She always said we were a good team. I stepped back like she had slapped me. Who says that? How do you say that? How do you lean in on that and not hear the thunder in your own head? Everyone said, look, you'll have a mother figure again. As if I needed replacing. As if my mother was a chair that broke and we could find another one at the store. As if I should be grateful. My grandmother, who never liked conflict, told me to smile. She squeezed my hand hard and whispered, do not ruin this for your father. Dana's sister hugged me and said, we're family now. I wanted to say you were family before too because they had made themselves family. They had sat at my table for years and called us that, and then they rewrote the story. Dana moved in. She rearranged everything. She bought new towels. She changed the curtains. She said we need to make new memories. She threw out the dented pots my mom loved. She put the green mixing bowl in the garage. When I tried to get it, it was gone. Oh, she said, I dropped it, my bad. She accidentally donated my mom's quilt, the quilt my mom's grandmother made by hand, the quilt that sat on our couch for as long as I remember. I found the empty space where it should be and I sat there and felt small. I had to go into the bathroom and hold onto the sink so I wouldn't break every plate in the cabinet. She called me kiddo. I'm not a kid. I handle more than she ever did. I was paying bills and booking appointments and filing paperwork while she was deciding which throw pillows matched the new paint. She asked me for my mom's recipes and then made them and took pictures for her page. Keeping her spirit alive, she wrote with a little heart. People commented, "You are such a good friend." People commented, "Your heart is beautiful." And I wanted to send them that hotel receipt. One day I caught her in my mom's room. She was sitting at the vanity putting on lipstick. My mom's lipstick, the tube with the gold cap, the one my mom kept in a little dish with her ring. I stood in the doorway. Dana looked at me in the mirror and said, "Do you think this color is too bright on me?" I said that was Mom's. She smiled like I was a baby who said something cute. "Honey," she said, "everything we have is hers in a way." I walked away because if I stayed in that room I was going to break something. Later she texted me a selfie with a heart. The caption said, "Feeling brave today." Brave? I kept my head down. I finished school. I worked. I kept the dog alive. I got up early and made eggs because if I didn't, nobody would eat breakfast. I took calls from the bank. I handled a mess with the insurance because my dad forgot to sign a form. I found out my mom had a small account she wanted used for my school. I told my dad. He said we should put it into the joint account. I said no. He said, "Don't you trust me?" I looked at Dana and saw her eyes flicker. To be honest, I said no. He got mad. He said, "You're keeping secrets." I said, "I learned from the best." And here is where I know I was right, not just in my bones, but in my hands, because I could hold the proof. A neighbor dropped off a photo album. She said, "I found this in a box of our old stuff and thought you'd want it." Inside were photos of my mom and me, and tucked between them were printed emails, back when people still printed emails. My mom and this neighbor wrote each other when that neighbor moved away. They wrote about books and kids and joking things, and there in plain words was a note from my mom. "I think they're closer than I knew," she wrote. "Maybe I'm being silly. Maybe it's the meds. Maybe I'm making a big thing out of nothing. It just feels like I'm on the outside of my own house sometimes." The date on the email was before the hospital. The date was when my mom still had hope. I read that email and I sank to the floor. My mom knew. She knew enough to doubt her mind. That broke me. Dana had sat in our kitchen and told me my mom would want this. My dad had told me it just happened. And my mom felt like a ghost in her own home while she was still alive. I took the email and the folder and I went to my aunt, the one who told me I was dramatic. I slid the page over. She read it. She took off her glasses. She said, "Oh." I said, "Yes, oh." She tried to tell me it could mean anything. She tried to tell me not to jump to conclusions. I said, "We are way past jumping. We are on the ground." She didn't have words after that. I went home and told my dad I was moving out. He said, "You can't afford it." I said, "I'll make it work." He said, "This is your home." I said it was. Dana stood there with her hand on his arm like always. She said, "Please don't do this. We're a family." I said, "You were my mom's family. You were supposed to be her safe place. You were the person she laughed with. You were her person, and you betrayed her. You betrayed me." She opened her mouth and closed it. For once, no words, no soft voice. I packed up my stuff. I took my mom's books. I took the dog for a drive around the block and told him I was sorry. The dog is old and belongs there. I couldn't take him and stress him out. I cried until my eyes hurt. Everyone said I was cruel. They said life is short. They said forgive. They said you only have one father. They said you're going to regret this. I said to myself in the small apartment I share with a friend now, I regret that I didn't trust my gut sooner. I regret that I let them tell me what to feel. I regret that I stood in that backyard and watched them promise to love each other while my mother lay under a stone without a voice. Do you know what else? I am not the only one. You think you're alone and then you hear things. You hear the whispered stories. You get the messages that start with, "Hey." I don't want to make things worse, but you learn that Dana told a co-worker she had met her person months before my mom died. You get a screenshot. You see her write, "It's complicated, but it feels right." You talk to the neighbor across the street who saw your dad and Dana sitting on the porch one night, heads touching before the hospital bed came. She thought it was sweet. She thought they were comforting each other. Maybe they were. People can call anything sweet if it's wrapped in tragedy. I don't wake up mad every day. I don't have the energy for that. I wake up and feed myself and go to work and laugh with my friend about stupid things. I go to the thrift store and look for green bowls. I walk by the dog park and watch other people's dogs run. I call my grandmother and tell her I love her. I send my aunt photos of the succulents I'm trying to keep alive. Some days I cry in the shower. Some days I sing loud in the car. Some days I wish I could call my mom and ask her what to do about a leaky sink. Most days I put one foot in front of the other and I don't look back. My dad texts me sometimes. "We miss you," he says. "Dinner," he says. "Can we talk?" he says. The other day he sent me a picture of Dana with the dog on her lap. The caption said, "Family time." I stared at it for a long time, then I put my phone down and took a breath. I replied, "I'm not ready." He said, "You can't stay mad forever." Maybe he thinks this is a tantrum. Maybe he thinks time will dull it. Maybe it will. I don't know, but I know this. I'm not the one who needs to do the fixing. They broke the thing. They can sit in it. If they want me back, then say it right. No more, it just happened. No more, your mom would have wanted this. Say we did a bad thing. We are sorry. Say we failed you. say we failed her. Then maybe we can sit at a table and pass the salt. In case you were wondering, the best friend part is the part that burns. Lovers run off. People change. Life is messy. I get that. But your best friend is the person who holds your hand when you feel like you're falling. Your best friend is the person who says, "I've got you." Not the person who grabs your husband's hand when yours is cold. Not the person who sits at your vanity and puts on your lipstick and says, "Everything we have is yours," and means, "And everything you had is mine now." That's what makes me feel crazy sometimes, that they took the words we used to heal and used them to cover their mess. People tell me I'm strong. People tell me they couldn't do what I did. I'm not strong. I'm stubborn. I'm tired. I'm the one who sits up at night and stares at the ceiling and counts all the times I said yes to things I didn't want to do because it was easier. I'm the one who finally said no. I'm the one who finally took the photo down off the fridge and put it in a drawer because I didn't want to look at their smiles while I poured my coffee. If you're reading this and thinking, well, love is love, I want to tell you something. Love is also timing. Love is also choices. Love is also telling the truth when it's hard. Love is also not kissing someone else's husband when she is taking a nap in a hospital chair. Love is not pretending you were chosen by fate. It's standing up and saying, "I chose this and someone else got hurt." Love is not using grief as a path to get what you wanted for a long time. That's not love. That's hunger. That's a hole you try to fill with someone else's life. I still have my mom's sweater, not the one Dana wore. That one she misplaced. No, I have the red one from the back of the closet, the one my mom kept for cold nights, the one that smells faintly like laundry soap no matter how many years pass. Sometimes I put it on and sit at the window and let the sun hit my face. I cry a little. I talk to her out loud. I tell her what I ate for dinner. I tell her I remembered to pay the water bill. I tell her I bought a plant and it's not dead yet. I tell her I am trying. I tell her I am doing the right thing even when it's lonely. I tell her she was right to call me brave. Dana used to call me kiddo. My dad used to call me baby. I am not their kiddo. I am not his baby. I am my mother's daughter. And no matter how many photos they hang on the gray walls, no matter how many cookies she bakes in my mom's oven, I know the truth. Under the paint, the yellow is still there. Under the new towels, the old hooks are still in the same place. Under their story, my mom's story is still stitched into everything, even the air. They can deny it and smile and say we're happy. Good for them. I hope they choke on it. This is the part where people tell me to heal, to let go. I am healing. Letting go is not the same as pretending it didn't happen. Letting go is putting down the things that don't belong to me. I'm not carrying their guilt. I'm not carrying their story. I'm not carrying the job of making them feel okay about what they did. I'm carrying my mom's memory and my own life, and that's plenty. So no, I was not happy when my mom's best friend became my stepmom. I was not happy when people took photos of them cutting a cake and tagged me and wrote, "So happy for you all." I didn't smile when Dana posted "blessed" under a picture of my dad's hand on her knee. I didn't clap when they danced in the backyard to a song my mom loved. I stood in my small apartment kitchen making soup in the one pot I own, and I felt something like peace. A hard peace, a peace you earn, the kind where you finally stop waiting for someone to say the right thing, the kind where you say it yourself. I was right to be angry. I was right to walk away. I was right to choose myself over their story. And all the people who wanted me to be happy about it, they can be happy for them. They can go to their gray house and sit on their gray couch and eat their cookies and smile. They can smile and smile and smile. I'll be here making my own life. It won't be perfect. It won't be pretty all the time. But it will be honest. That is something my mother taught me. That is something they can't take.